Greetings citizens of the world, we are Anonymous. Today we are going to talk about how to spot a spy. COINTELPRO agent. One way to neutralize a potential activist is to get them to be in a group that does all the wrong things. Why? 1. The message doesn't get out. 2. A lot of time is wasted. 3. The activist is frustrated and discouraged. 4. Nothing good is accomplished. FBI and police informers and infiltrators will infest any group, and they have phony activist organizations established. Their purpose is to prevent any real movement for justice or eco-peace from developing in this country. Agents come in small, medium or large. They can be of any ethnic background. They can be male or female. The actual size of the group or movement being infiltrated is irrelevant. It is the potential the movement has for becoming large which brings on the spies and saboteurs. This booklet lists tactics agents use to slow things down, foul things up, destroy the movement, and keep tabs on activists. It is the agent's job to keep the activist from quitting such a group, thus keeping him/her under control. In some situations, to get control, the agent will tell the activist, "Greater than you're dividing the movement." Here, I have added the psychological reasons as to why this maneuver works to control people. This invites guilty feelings. Many people can be controlled by guilt. The agents begin relationships with activists behind a well-developed mask of dedication to the cause. Because of their often declared dedication, and actions designed to prove this, when they criticize the activist, he or she, being truly dedicated to the movement, becomes convinced that somehow, any issues are their fault. This is because a truly dedicated person tends to believe that everyone has a conscience and that nobody would dissimulate and lie like that on purpose. It's amazing how far agents can go in manipulating an activist, because the activist will constantly make excuses for the agent who regularly declares their dedication to the cause. Even if they do, occasionally, suspect the agent, they will pull the wool over their own eyes by rationalizing, "They did that unconsciously, they didn't really mean it, I can help them by being forgiving and accepting," and so on and so forth. The agent will tell the activist, "Greater than you're a leader." This is designed to enhance the activist's self-esteem. His or her narcissistic admiration of his/her own activist/altruistic intentions increase as he or she identifies with and consciously admires the altruistic declarations of the agent, which are deliberately set up to mirror those of the activist. This is malignant pseudo-identification. It is the process by which the agent consciously imitates or simulates a certain behavior to foster the activist's identification with him/her, thus increasing the activist's vulnerability to exploitation. The agent will simulate the more subtle self-concepts of the activist. Activists and those who have altruistic self-concepts are most vulnerable to malignant pseudo-identification, especially during work with the agent when the interaction includes matter relating to their competency, autonomy, or knowledge. The goal of the agent is to increase the activist's general empathy for the agent through pseudo-identification with the activist's self-concepts. The most common example of this is the agent who will compliment the activist for his competency or knowledge or value to the movement. On a more subtle level, the agent will simulate effects and mannerisms of the activist, which promotes identification via mirroring and feelings of twinship. It is not unheard of for activists, enamored by the perceived helpfulness and competence of a good agent, to find themselves considering ethical violations and perhaps even illegal behavior in the service of their agent/handler. The activist's felt quality of perfection, self-concept, is enhanced, and a strong empathic bond is developed with the agent through his/her imitation and simulation of the victim's own narcissistic investments. Self-concepts, that is, if the activist knows, deep inside, their own dedication to the cause, they will project that onto the agent who is mirroring them. The activist will be deluded into thinking that the agent shares this feeling of identification and bonding. In an activist/social movement setting, the adversarial roles that activists naturally play vis-a-vis the establishment/government fosters ongoing processes of intrinsic exploiting, so that twinship alliances between activist and agent may render whole sectors or reality testing unavailable to the activist. They literally lose touch with reality. Activists who deny their own narcissistic investments do not have a good idea of their own self-concepts and that they are concepts, and consciously perceive themselves, accurately, as it were, to be helpers, endowed with a special amount of altruism, are exceedingly vulnerable to the effective, emotional, simulation of the accomplished agent. Empathy is fostered in the activist through the expression of quite visible affects. The presentation of tearfulness, sadness, longing, fear, remorse, and guilt may induce in the helper-oriented activist a strong sense of compassion, while unconsciously enhancing the activist's narcissistic investment in self as the embodiment of goodness. The agent's expression of such simulated effects may be quite compelling to the observer and difficult to distinguish from deep emotion. It can usually be identified by two events, however. First, the activist who has analyzed his/her own narcissistic roots and is aware of his/her own potential for being emotionally hooked, will be able to remain cool and unaffected by such emotional outpourings by the agent. As a result of this unaffected, cool attitude, the second event will occur. The agent will recompensate much too quickly following such an effective expression, leaving the activist with the impression that the play has ended, the curtain has fallen, and the imposture, for the moment, has finished. The agent will then move quickly to another activist/victim. The fact is, the movement doesn't need leaders. It needs movers. Follow the leader is a waste of time. A good agent will want to meet as often as possible. He or she will talk a lot and say little. One can expect an onslaught of long, unresolved discussions. Some agents take on a pushy, arrogant, or defensive manner. 1. To disrupt the agenda. 2. To sidetrack the discussion. 3. To interrupt repeatedly. 4. To feign ignorance. 5. To make an unfounded accusation against a person, calling someone a racist, for example. This tactic is used to discredit a person in the eyes of all other group members. Saboteurs. Some saboteurs pretend to be activists. She or he will 1. Write encyclopedic flyers, in the present day, websites. 2. Print flyers in English only. 3. Have demonstrations in places where no one cares. 4. Solicit funding from rich people instead of grassroots support. 5. Display banners with too many words that are confusing. 6. Confuse issues. 7. Make the wrong demands. 8. Compromise the goal. 9. Have endless discussions that waste everyone's time. The agent may accompany the endless discussions with drinking, pot smoking, or other amusement to slow down the activist's work. Provocateurs. 1. Want to establish leaders. 2. Set them up for a fall in order to stop the movement. 2. Suggest doing foolish, illegal things to get the activists in trouble. 3. Encourage militancy. 4. Want to taunt the authorities. 5. Attempt to make the activist compromise their values. 6. Attempt to instigate violence. Activism ought to always be non-violent. 7. Attempt to provoke revolt among people who are ill-prepared to deal with the reaction of the authorities to such violence. Informants. 1. Want everyone to sign up and sing in and sign everything. 2. Ask a lot of questions, gathering data. 3. Want to know what events the activist is planning to attend. 4. Attempt to make the activist defend him or herself to identify his or her beliefs, goals, and level of commitment. Recruiting legitimate activists do not subject people to hours of persuasive dialogue. Their actions, beliefs, and goals speak for themselves. Groups that do recruit are missionaries, military, and fake political parties or movements set up by agents. Surveillance always assumes that you are under surveillance. At this point, if you are not under surveillance, you are not a very good activist. Scare tactics. They use them. Such tactics include slander, defamation, threats, getting close to disaffected or minimally committed fellow activists to persuade them, via psychological tactics described above, to turn against the movement and give false testimony against their former compatriots. They will plant illegal substances on the activist and set up an arrest, They will plant false information and set up exposure. They will send incriminating letters, emails, in the name of the activist, and more. They will do whatever society will allow. This booklet in no way covers all the ways agents use to sabotage the lives of sincere and dedicated activists. If an agent is exposed, he or she will be transferred or replaced. COINTELPRO is still in operation today under a different code name. It is no longer placed on paper where it can be discovered through the Freedom of Information Act. The FBI counterintelligence program's stated purpose: to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize individuals who the FBI categorize as opposed to the national interests. National security means the FBI's security from the people ever finding out the vicious things it does in violation of people's civil liberties. We are anonymous. We are legion. United as one. Divided by none. We do not forget. We do not forgive. Expect us.